Thank you, Mr. President. I also want to thank the sponsor for bringing this resolution to the floor. You know, the reason why we celebrate March 29th as Vietnam Veterans Day in New York is because of a man by the name of Lester Modelowitz, a Vietnam veteran from Staten Island, good friend to myself and Senator Savino. When I first arrived here in the Senate, Lester Modelowitz came to me with the idea of creating this day. After all, it was in 1973 on this day that President Nixon removed the last troops from Vietnam and signed an executive order that day making it Vietnam Recognition Day, but only for that year. And Lester thought, together with the Vietnam Veterans of America chapter on Staten Island, that we ought to recognize this day every year. And to me, it was a no-brainer. I mean, who would not agree with that idea? I brought the idea to Assemblyman Matt Titone. He authored it in the Assembly. You would think within minutes it would have passed both houses. It didn't. That was just the beginning of a multi-year effort to convince folks across the political spectrum that it was time that we stand up and recognize the mistake that had been made and that which we owe the men and women who sacrificed in that conflict. People who opposed it said, Andrew, why do we need another day honoring veterans? After all, we have Veterans Day, we have Memorial Day, there are other opportunities throughout the year. Do we really need another day? My answer, of course, was absolutely, and here's why. Because something different happened to the Vietnam veterans. One of the shameful chapters in American history, when it has been pointed out here, they fought, they were sent, as Senator Sanders said, they were sent overseas to defend our liberty, and whether you agreed or not with the conflict, they did their duty. In fact, by the way, something you won't be taught in school, they never lost a single battle. Not a single battle was lost in Vietnam by the American men and women who went there to fight there. And so we said, we've got to right that wrong. And by righting the wrong, we do two things. We express our gratitude to them, we acknowledge wrong, but we also say to the world that we know when it's time to make amends. We know when it's time to address the things that we've done that shouldn't have happened, and to understand why they happened. A lot of factors that contributed to that, but clearly you had warped Hollywood actors and actresses, people in the media, you had phony politicians, you had a misguided public, all conspired to attack the very thing which we should honor most in America. And so they say, we've learned from it, but I'm here to tell you, we've got to remain vigilant, because those same ignorant, petty forces will continue to exist within human nature, unfortunately. So we did it here in New York. And then we worked with other states. Senator Savino and I and Assemblyman Titone were contacted by another of legislative houses across America, and every single year a couple of new states made this the law. We lobbied the federal government for 6 years to make it a national day of recognition. We were unsuccessful. But I'm happy to announce that on March 28th, 2017, President Trump signed the Vietnam Veterans Recognition Act, which makes today a national day every year of recognition for Vietnam veterans. And it ought to be that way. 57,939 American soldiers' names are inscribed on that wall in Washington, D.C. Everyone here ought to go there and behold the sacrifice, and the blood that was spilt on our behalf. So once again, as I do every year and every day, I want to say thank you, Vietnam veterans. Thank you for your sacrifices in defense of the greatest nation the world has ever known. The first nation on this earth conceived and founded upon the idea of individual liberty, which sits on the bedrock of freedom, the first ever. We've got to make sure that light never leaves this earth, and it will not, as long as there are men and women like the men and women we call Vietnam veterans. So I thank you on behalf of this body, on behalf of my state, and on behalf of this country. Thank you, and God bless you. And as Senator Brooks said, something wasn't said to you that should have been said then. And all these years later, we need to keep saying it, Senator Brooks. Welcome home, welcome home, welcome home.